Good morning. All right, let me check because you guys all know live streaming is new for me. Let me see. Am I on? Am I on? Fun time. So excited to be here. I have been preparing yesterday and today for our conversation. Let me just check. I don't know what I'm checking. Let's see.
That it's hard to have
Not
a voice.
that one.
And I will advocate and be...
Not that one. Let me make sure that I'm live here. So fun. If I'm live, send me a comment and let me know that I'm on here. Okay, it looks like, yes, I'm
Not
here.
that one. Let me make sure.
Yay, awesome. Okay, great, wonderful, so excited. Well, welcome to our Friday huddle, our time together for our international leadership group. Let me close out of this so I can get back to focusing. Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Thank you for logging in to have this conversation with me. My name is Tara Nichols. I'm a licensed mental health clinician in Douglasville, Georgia. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of the Nichols Center. And this conversation, this continual conversation that we've been having on Fridays is about growing resiliency and mental well-being across communities. And it's an international leadership group. So we have people logging in from all over the world, specifically from Uganda, my wonderful friends in Uganda. So Fridays are, I think, just a great time for us to connect, to learn new things about building wellness, trauma-informed care, and connecting with people around the world about the great need for mental health in communities. So I'm so excited to be here today. Like I said, I'm still very new to live streaming and this, connection through digital means. Definitely a pen, pencil, book, face-to-face kind of person, but I love that I'm able to continue learning together with you here. So if you're on, go ahead and grab your warm beverage, your cup of coffee, cup of tea, and pull up a chair and let's sit down and have a conversation. So today's lesson, I was thinking about this yesterday. What would be a really great topic to cover, specifically still talking about trauma. And the last couple of conversations, we've been focusing on trauma and trauma in communities and how different things, both big and small, big T traumas and little T traumas impact the person, but also the ripple effect of how that impacts that person, how it affects those around you, how it affects your community, and how that resilience, that by applying resilience in those spaces can also have that same ripple effect, that same butterfly effect across communities, right? And if that concept is a little hard to follow, think about it kind of like a paying it forward, right? And the idea of if you do something negative, then that negative action leads to maybe deteriorating someone's, emotional wellness or good day, and then their bad mood, like you've just kind of dumped something, and then they have, a response to that, and that might be negative, and then that negativity continues to spread and grow. A lot like a weed in a garden, right? If you don't pull up those weeds pretty quickly, those weeds spread. But the same is true for positive behaviors, positive interactions. One good deed, one kindness, one act of resilience, one act of gratitude, that can spread as well. And so these conversations really serve as a great reminder to come back to the intentional well-being we want to hold, and keep those acts of support, those acts of mental health, the small things, right? Be intentional with the small things. And when you're intentional with those small things build and spread and grow. And just like dandelions, and I know that if you're in America, dandelions are not something you enjoy, but dandelions are really wonderful medicinal plants, and they actually represent the same idea. Just as you might not want them because they're weeds in your beautiful lawn, they still represent this idea of spreading something that actually could be used for really wonderful purposes, right? Dandelions are really highly medicinal, and as they spread and grow, the same is true with kindness and resilience and healing. In the last conversation last week, we talked about hurt people, but healed people heal people. And when you start showing up in your community as a healed person, that allows that idea of healing, that modeled behavior of mental well-being, to continue to grow around you, around your family, around your children, around your work environment, around your, maybe your church or your social groups, amongst your friends and your friendships. It really can spread. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do we create space to keep healing flourishing? How do we model well-being and trauma-informed support in the spaces that we move, in the spaces that we grow, and how do we create that space so that we can invite other people in to share about their trauma and their hurts, so that we can spread this idea of healing one to another. And so the first part of creating space for this continual conversation about mental health has less to do with the physical space and more about the internal process within yourself. This is really important to note, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, I can't be therapeutic or I can't be trauma informed because I don't have a fancy office like you do, or I don't have a beautiful, garden to sit in, or I don't have something. But the reality is that space can be created anywhere. The idea of space is the idea that starts with inside of you, that you can hit that pause button. So many of us have very busy schedules. We have deadlines and tasks and timelines, minute by minute, planned out. And we have always one thing after another, and we want to live up to all these expectations. We want to be on time, we want to be put together, we want to present ourselves well, and in so many times we end up rushed, stressed, burdened. We're constantly moving mentally and emotionally and physically from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And with mental health, that's exhausting to keep up with. Even if you were doing all the right things, right? You're eating well, you're drinking water, you're spending time exercising or in the sauna or in meditation, you're praying, you're doing all the right things. That daily grind of the residual schedule is so overwhelming. Now, routine is good and rhythm is good, and having a balanced day-to-day flow is fantastic. But if your schedule and your time is not managed in a way that allows you rest, allows you a chance to sit and push things back a little, allows you to make space inside your own emotional demands, that's going to be really hard to be available for someone else, right? You're not going to be able to take those extra 5 minutes, or as we say, 8 minutes, to take the call when someone's in need. You're not going to be available for those happy distractions that remind us of how important life is. And we're not just rats in a rat race or hamsters on a wheel. We're actually people with human needs and needing human connection. Now at the Nichols Center, we have a campaign called I Have 8 Minutes, and that's based on a wonderful podcast segment from Simon Sinek that says that statistically it only takes 8 minutes to help someone, a friend of yours, through a difficult crisis. And if that was you, would you be that friend? And the idea of having 8 minutes is a response to that. It's a promise that I would be a person who would take 8 minutes to help someone if they were struggling. And if you think about that, if you, right now, I know you're watching this live stream and you're connecting with me online and you're hopefully very, very excited to be here like I am. But if you got a call right now and you were maybe going to miss some of this conversation, and you looked at your phone or you looked at the person that walked into your office and they looked like they really needed your help, would you not walk away and go help them? If you cared about them, would you not say, okay guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a few minutes for this person who's here that really needs me? That's a really important question to ask yourself. Are you so driven by the burden of the expectations laid on your shoulders? Or are you able to come up for air and look around you and go, man, the people that are in my office, the people in my family, the people in my church, the people, my neighbors even, my community, man, they're really struggling. And I could take just a few minutes to spread some joy, to spread some hope, to give them a chance to talk about what's really going on with them. And statistically, we know it doesn't take a lot of time to build that human connection. It doesn't take a lot of time to be a good friend and send a message, and maybe not even just text it, maybe pick up the phone and call and say, I wanted to check on you. I wanted to see how you were doing. I wanted to be intentional with this relationship. And maybe your friend answers and maybe they don't, and that's okay. Maybe your coworker is available to talk and maybe they're not, but they know that you're available. And making that commitment to being a person who holds space for others is really the first step of trauma-informed care. Saying, I would be a person who would be available. Now, before you decide that you can be available for someone who's hurting, there's some work you should probably do. You should probably check and make sure that inside of you don't have a lot of your own crisis going on, that you've reached a place of emotional stability most days. Some days, we all have those days, but most days that you pretty consistently have a balance to your life. And if that's not you, that's okay, but that means that you should be focused on how you can get stable versus how you can be everybody else's stability, because you can't give away what you don't have. So make sure that you have time to manage your own stability. You can really burn out even within yourself if you're going around in your own active crisis, in your own active struggle, and still trying to pour from an empty cup, so to speak, or give what you don't have. Giving from a place of abundance, a place of security, is a stronger position in offering grace, gratitude, and hope. So take a few moments. Think about, where are you at with your trauma healing journey? We've talked about everyone has trauma, right? Everyone goes through suffering. Life is filled with hardships and hurting moments, and we know that hurt people, and there's a lot of hurt people in this world. So, we know that statistically you probably have struggled in your life. maybe differently than I have, but you've gone through some things. And those things have helped you become the empathic, connected, intentional person that you are. Without that experience, you might be numb to the fact that people go through suffering. It's only the gift that you understand what suffering feels like that allows you to realize how important these conversations really are. That's your superpower. The superpower is you've been through some stuff, and now you're able to use that to connect with others. You're able to unwrap that gift of suffering and share it with the person to the right and left of you. And that's how we get better, right? Because you've been through those steps of hurting and now you're on that side of healing. And so getting to that place of being a healed person is really what you want to focus on first. Now, just take a few minutes, get inside your own emotional well-being, recall maybe the last few journal entries that you've done or the last few conversations that you've had. Are you in a place of stability? Are you okay? Are your roots grounded? Are you getting the emotional nutrients and the emotional support you need? Or are you kind of triggered? Are you not available? Are you emotionally compromised? Think of where you're at. And some days it's a yes and a no. Yes, I'm good, or no, I'm not. Some days it's a spectrum, right? Some days it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most stable I've ever been, I'm sitting at a 4.3, like I'm kind of teetering, right? So I would say, even if you're a solid 6, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're a solid 6, you're doing okay, right? You're mostly on that way to being available, but you're still not all the way there. And we're not all the way there every day. Some days I can be really grounded and really feel very supported, very emotionally supported. My health feels good. My energy levels feel good. I feel better. And then some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like the whole world is on my shoulders. And I feel like I can't make it from minute to minute. And I know those days I need the support. I shouldn't be offering that support to others because I don't have it within inside myself. I got to do that internal work. So take a few minutes and ask yourself, where do you fall today? Are you struggling and you should be reaching out? Or are you actually pretty okay and you're doing well and you have the strength within you to begin sharing what blessings you have? So just think about that. And every day for the next week, we're gonna try to meet again next week. And so between now and next week, just begin thinking, all right, today I'm really okay. Or actually, I have more days where I'm not okay, and really I should be doing more internal work right now. I should be talking to my pastor. I should be talking to a counselor. I should be working with my support group to get more stable. So if you're at a place where you're doing pretty okay, then I want you to ask yourself the follow-up question. If someone came to me today, if they called me, texted me, or sat down next to me, or walked into my office, or sat at my kitchen table, and I could tell that they were not okay, I could just kind of feel it. I could know, because I know what it feels like. And if I know how it feels, I could see that. Would I be a safe person for them to come talk to? Would I be that person that could listen in those moments? And if that's you, I want you to make a promise to yourself that you're going to be a person to give 8 minutes to someone. You're going to create space, open opportunity to allow people to come and ask for help, to allow people to come and ask for encouragement. Now, some people think that, well, if I had $1 million and a new plant, I would be okay. And a lot of times we think money is going to solve all our problems, solve whatever situation we're in. But really, that's a band-aid. We don't actually need money. We need support. We need kindness. We need connection. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, that's really great for you. You live in a beautiful therapeutic environment and you have all the right things. And the truth is, you know, I have days that I struggle too. I have days and demands on my schedule. I have real life problems too that I face, bills and expenses and family concerns and kids and it's tough. So just because I have, you know, a degree on the wall and a lot of experience being a therapist doesn't mean that I don't have days that I struggle too. And so, but I have to ask myself every day before I walk into the office, is this a day where I can show up and pour and give out to the community in a way that's really helpful for them? Or am I in a place where I would actually be harming them because I'm not safe? I don't feel safe to myself. I don't feel safe to those around me to come and ask for support. So even I have to ask myself these very difficult questions sometimes of, hey, are you okay or are you not okay? And if you're not okay, do you have the tools and resources to recognize that and then heal that, whatever it is? So I really challenge you to begin asking yourself, would you be a safe person to be there for someone else? It's so critical and important. Because in that moment where that person's reaching out to you, you've got to have eyes to see it. You know, we lose so many people in this world to suicide. We lose so many people in this world to disconnection and loneliness. We lose them through substance use. We lose them through health issues, right? The people that we love and we care about, and they develop destructive habits or negative thought patterns. We lose friendships because people just didn't feel seen and heard or understood. And so often those concerns or those problems actually are not worth losing that friendship or losing that relationship over. But we don't give ourselves the time to sit and understand what's really going on. So creating space and creating an environment where people can come and feel seen and feel heard and feel connected with, that starts with you. Are you a person who creates that space for yourself? And do you allow people to interrupt your schedule? Do you allow people to come in with their problems? Or are you so worried that you're not going to have the right answer? You're not going to be able to be what they need, or you're not going to have the money to give them what they're going to ask for. But we know that that's not what really people need. That's not what people need. They need the friendship. They need the support. They need the connection. Sometimes they just need to talk about their problem. And just in talking it out, they can figure it out themselves. They just want someone to go through it with them. Sit and listen. And say, what do you think about that? Is this the hardest thing you've ever been through? I'm here for you. I might not have all the right answers. Even I don't have all the right answers. I'm a therapist, you know. I don't have all the right answers. But together, let's come up with a plan. So, now that we all agree that we can create this space within inside ourselves, right? We can check ourselves and say, okay, hey, I'm feeling good today. I've got the emotional reserves. I've got the grounding I need. I can lean into this and I can have these very big conversations with people if they needed me. And I can communicate to them by letting people know, hey, I'm going to check on you. I'm going to see how you're doing. I know you've been going through a hardship and going through a tough time, and I'm proud of you and I'm here for you, right? So once we've had those conversations, how do we continue to create a community, a network, a bridging of that connection so that people understand that they can share this, right? They can share these ideas with themselves, with their families, within their own groups. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create almost like a network, a organic sharing of trauma-informed concepts within our own social circles, within our own networks, within our own people connections, right? Think about, and I know this is going to sound so crazy, but it's such a great analogy. So follow me for a second. Think about fungus, okay? Mushrooms, fungi. Fungi and that whole species of plants actually build networks based on energy exchange. They branch out along the soil, along the trees and the roots in order to build connections based on where they can find nutrients. Similar to the way the tiny roots of plants grow. So when you plant a seed, you have, it's called mycorrhizal, I think is what it's called. If I mispronounced it, I'm sorry. It's this very biologically scientific concept of how as the tiny little hairs of plants' roots grow, they reach out for the nutrients within the soil to find everything that they need, water, minerals. They're looking for that energy exchange connection that they find within the soil, right? So if you were walking in your yard and you pulled a weed and you pulled the root out of the weed, you would find the big taproot and you'd find these long stringy roots off the side. But then off those little tiny string roots, you would find these little tiny, they almost look like hairs, You would find these little tiny white roots where the plant is actually reaching beyond its main roots, like the tap roots for deep grounding and structural support, but they'd be reaching out for that energy exchange of nutrients within the soil. And that's what fungi do. Fungi, mushrooms, those things, right? So as they begin growing along the forest floor, along your jungles, even some of us along the sides of our houses, right? In damp areas, they're looking for that very low to the ground, close to that nutrient support. And within ourselves, within our own trauma support, we are trying to build a network that's similar, right? We want to follow the nutrients, the healing, the hope that's within our communities, and we want to begin branching out on this very low level. A lot of times we think in order to be successful or create a big awareness that we have to go big, right? We have to have lots of money and a big location and lights and cameras and technologies and softwares and we've got to be these big time influencers. And that's not true. So much good is done at kitchen tables, sitting next to somebody on the bus, standing in a crowd and just having a conversation with someone, recognizing someone in the small moments, because you have that hope within you. You've been cultivating that healing, that nutrients. You've been sharing that nutrients with inside of yourself. And just being available for those small, intentional moments, that is so powerful. And that's where real community healing begins. Now, I love that you're watching this video, and hopefully you're sharing this video with your friends, with your family members, with people that you think would actually listen and care. But it is in those small moments of, once you have this information, how will you share this in your day-to-day interactions? How will you make time for people in those little quiet spaces that only you can go, right? With the relationships really that you are having. They're your friendships. They're your, work relationships. That's your pattern in life. That's your bus ride. You are the author of your life. So are you able to share this hope, share this trauma-informed conversation, talk to people? How is your mental health? People ask, how are you? And that conversation really keeps people on a surface level, right? They think of, oh, well, how am I? Well, I'm breathing. I feel generally okay. I mean, maybe I'm actually physically okay, or maybe I'm just operating in survival mode and that feels normal to me, so I feel normal, right? So when you ask somebody, how are you? You're asking how are they in their version of normal? And they'll say good if their version of normal, which could be pretty okay, or it could be straight chaos, right? Some people's normal is very chaotic. And so they might not actually be okay, but they're telling you they're okay because they're not outside of their normal, right? And that's really important to know, is when you're saying, how are you, you're not actually asking, how are you on a scale of healthy to unhealthy, or mentally stable to not stable. You're just asking a very basic, do you feel normal today? Do you feel in a place where you don't feel off your base, right? And so most people will answer that and say, oh, I'm okay, because that is their common response. And we know this. And so when they don't answer with their common response, oh, I'm good, I've got this good thing, we're like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, I'm not good, I don't feel well, or, I've got this stressful thing. You're like, oh, sorry to hear that. And usually that's where it kind of ends, right? Sorry to hear that, But what I'm asking you to do is to go a step further. Instead of asking, are you okay? How are you? Ask, how is your mental health? How is, are you grounded today? Do you feel okay? Like, think about it for a second, Do you feel rested? Ask a little deeper questions, especially if it's somebody you care about, How are you juggling all of this? I see you're going through a lot. A lot of times we say, well, we look for signs of suicide. We listen out to see if people will tell us. And sometimes we listen well. But sometimes you don't have to wait till somebody tells you. Sometimes you can see their life is really hard right now. They're going through a lot. So don't wait. Ask. I see you're going through a lot. How are you managing all of this with your mental well-being? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you drinking water? Are you doing the things? Are you eating? Have you eaten breakfast today? Because a lot of times when we're struggling, we forget to feed our body, and then we forget to take care of our body, and then we forget to take the time to simply stop and assess our thoughts. So make sure you're taking the time to check in with people, especially if they're people you care about. Now, we've talked a lot today. I hope it's been really helpful. I hope that you can take a couple of nuggets from what we've shared, and I hope that it's something you can share in your life. It doesn't have to be high level, right? You don't have to prepare a whole workshop from these conversations. If one thing, one little idea in this conversation helps you, I want you to share it. Like a dandelion flower, I want you to begin just spreading those seeds of hope. Allow on a moment by moment, interaction by interaction, the ability for the hope and the healing that you have to begin entering conversations. Just talk about it. If you can, create a beautiful environment to sit down where people feel comfortable and warm and cared about, that's awesome. That's great. I have my garden, I have this office. I try to keep my home where it doesn't feel chaotic and stressful, so people do want to come sit down on the couch and have a conversation with me. I try to keep my office and my, the whole space at the center to feel that way, but sometimes it's hard, and sometimes life is stressful, and my spaces, my physical spaces, aren't as available for that sense of peace. So when life gets busy like that and the physical spaces around you don't feel like peaceful to you, that doesn't mean you don't have to create that peace within inside yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't create that peace, because peace is an internal creation that begins within inside yourself. And as you begin cultivating that peace within inside yourself, that healing within inside yourself, that hope that you have, that's when you can begin sharing it outward with others. And that can be done anywhere, in those small moments. So that is my encouragement to you today. That is the lesson that we have today. I am going to go on our website group page and post some information for you. I'm going to put a couple of pages in there, but I'd like you guys to continue this discussion. How are you creating peace within inside yourself? How are you checking in with yourself? Are you taking a moment and saying, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, I'm feeling at a 3 today, or I'm feeling at a 7, or actually I'm feeling really great. Like I've got it going on today, you know, and just do that every day for the next few days and see, in general, is your life right now in a place where it's doing well and you feel supported? And then how are you showing up for others? Are you showing up in a way that's open-hearted, that invites other people in to really talk about what's going on for them? Or in the back of your mind, are you kind of afraid? Don't ask me for anything. Don't look at me. I don't have anything for you. You know, are you showing up like that? Maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally. And then what can you do about that? Right? Can you be intentional with how you show up? Can you reach outside of yourself because you have found that peace and that stability for yourself? And can you begin letting the people around you know, if you're not okay, it's all right to talk to me about it. I could listen. Now we do that at the center with the pin, I have 8 minutes, right? So this is our I have 8 minutes pin. This is the start of our pin collection, and I love this pin, right? This is probably my favorite. I like this one and the Grow Again pin. But this one, and you just wear it. You just say, okay, you know, today is a day that I feel, let me put it on straight so it looks good. There you go. Today is a day where I feel like if you needed help, I would be available, that you could ask me for that. And so I'm going to wear this today. Now, if I did my check-in and I was really struggling, I wouldn't wear it. I'd take it off and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not really available today. I emotionally am struggling today. But this is that concept of being intentional, making that intentional decision to talk to someone about how they're doing, and creating that space within inside yourself that you can share with others. I hope this helps. Put in the discussion questions, you know, the discussion post on the website, more about what you'd like to learn, what you thought of today's lesson, if there was any part that was particularly helpful, or any part that you would like more information on. If you want more information about fungi and mushrooms and mycorrhizal, I don't know, whatever it is, I'm going to go do some research now and get that information, because it's so true to how we live. And that's what I love about gardening. That's what I love about nature, is that there's so many lessons for ourselves that we can learn outside with our feet in the dirt and our hands in the soil and digging in the plants. And there's just so much that we can learn from this beautiful creation we live in. So I hope that you are blessed. I hope that you are well. And I look forward to more conversations. Talk to you soon.